How are you this morning? It is amazing to see you. It is Thoughtful Thursday. As we've said, we have a lot to get in, so we are going to get right after it. I'm going to hit you with the fact that it is Retro Day, which is why you have my cool retro shirt that looks like I just jumped out of Saved by the Bell and pulled it off the walls of the Max. But today I wanted to feature an important event coming up from the Fearless team over at Midway Church. It is called Lisa Harper. She's coming. It's called Promises. So she is coming to the church to talk about God's promises for women specifically. And it is March 6th at 7 p.m. They still have about 100 tickets left, last I heard. I'm going to drop the link in the Facebook Live right now. Let's make sure it's on and live. Yep, there I am. So let me see if I can put comments in now. And now I get to look at myself, looking at myself, looking at my phone. This is some Inception level craziness going on here. Thank you and shout out to Nicole Chapman for bringing this to my attention and giving us the opportunity to share that with the world. I think you'll be very well served by going, as we talked about yesterday on our Faith-Filled Wednesday, because we didn't have a chance to do that Friday. I will probably not be here with you in the traditional sense we normally are tomorrow. I will probably do a short video that we'll post. Let's get back to the Facebook Live. And I'll draw. Whoa. Hearing myself is kind of crazy. Here it is in the comment section right now. You can see that, where to sign up and how to sign up. It is a paid event. It's going to be an amazing event. As again, I say, you'll get to see Lisa Harper there. All right. Awesome. So today is also the answer to the riddle, Pokemon. It is Pokemon Day. Got to catch them all. I stole this from Trip. And this morning, I'll bring it back, I promise. So in 1996, I believe, Pokemon released in Japan on this day, and it was Pokemon Red and Green. For some of y'all, you may not know that. I got Pokemon Yellow, which was the third version of Pokemon. So you had Pokemon Red, then you had Pokemon Green. That was in Japan. When they came here, you had Pokemon Red and Blue in the U.S., and it was originally only available for the Game Boy. There have been, I don't know how many games. I guess it's 9 generations since then, but obviously there's 2 games for each of those generations. But there was a third one in that first generation called Pokemon Yellow. And if you watch the anime, then Ash Ketchum, who's the kind of lead character inside of the Pokemon universe, he just basically, the character got retired recently, but he had Pikachu, so he showed up late to see Professor Oak. Professor Oak didn't have a Pokemon left of the 3 original starters, which were Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. And so he didn't have any of those 3 left, so he gave him a Pikachu. And so then from there, that launched a complete sensation. There's a trading card game. There's the online game, which they call VGC, or Virtual Championship Gaming. There's guys like Wolf Glick on YouTube. If you ever want to go like down a rabbit hole, or maybe you just need to go to sleep and you love Pokemon, you can watch Wolf Glick play. I'll tell you a story about me. So when I was playing Pokemon Yellow, I got the yellow Game Boy, and I would play it every time my parents would go to the airport to pick somebody up, or if they had to be dropped off at the airport early in the morning. I always wanted to go because I got an hour or more in the back seat, hour each way, playing Pokemon. And it was a tough game. In the beginning, I didn't know anything about it. I was like trying to figure it out. It was pre-internet. So you're going and you're like, how do I heal my Pokemon? And in the game, you could go back to your mom's house and she would heal your Pokemon for you. So I was going to all these cities, distant, like long time traveling, and then going back to my mom in the game to get the Pokemon healed, not knowing what the heck a Poke Center was. And it was pure pandemonium for me as a kid, going like, I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do. And it was amazing, though, because you as a kid back then could wander and adventure without having easy accessibility to just how to short circuit or cheat the game. And then later in life, I kind of quit playing Pokemon after that version. I didn't really play any of the ones between then and now. I have played the most recent one, which is Gen 9. But I'm working at Arby's, and we're all talking smack to each other. We're all 90s kids. You know, I say 90s kids, meaning our formative years of, 2 through 8 or whatever were in the 90s, or, 3 through 8 were in the 90s, and 3 through 11 in my case. Is that right? Something like that. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Point is, 90s kids. We're all 90s kids. We're talking trash to each other. I'm better at Pokemon than you. You can't beat me, blah, blah, blah. None of us had a Game Boy at that point, right? So we're like, oh, fine. Let's put some money on this. We're all working for, $7 an hour. So I wish you had no business betting on anything, much less a video game. And my buddy Michael Hamill and my friend Chris Murphy were like, hey, we're going to go after work. We're all buying a Game Boy, and we're buying one of the 3 versions. I can't remember if we decided which version, but we're going to buy yellow, blue, or red, and no cheating, and you have to build a team, and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do it on this date. So from that day until the competition, every waking moment that I wasn't doing something that wasn't work or school related, and sometimes even during class, I was turning the volume down. I'm in college. Turning the volume down, sitting there playing a silly video game, and I'm getting my team ready to fight Chris and Michael. And we sat in the back of Arby's right before our shift started and all battled back and forth. I think I won, but the dumbest thing I did during that time, I'm getting out of my car, and I'm playing the game with one hand, not paying attention, and I go to close the door, and my pinky ends up in the door of the car, closed, and ended up breaking my pinky. I had to wear a splint. It was a whole thing. They thought it was an open fracture because I had like a hole in my pinky where it had cut me, and I thought I was seeing bone. To be honest, I'm a little bit of hypochondriac, so whatever. But it actually turned out to just be some fatty tissue. So, yeah, Pokemon, lots and lots of fun, and very, very interesting. Hold on one sec. We got a comment. I want to make sure I monitor the comments. I can't see my computer screen from here because I'm blind. Love the shirt. Very 80s. Thank you, Arian. I appreciate the compliment. So that is Pokemon Day. There are over 1,000 Pokemon. We started out with 151. I used to have them all memorized. There's thousands of dollars in card games that get traded each year. And so if you really want to see, like I say, the greatness that Pokemon can be and the community that it can be, you can go check out like a Wolf Glick, who'll lead you to the VGC and all the tournaments that happen. And there is a community around it. It is pretty cool to see, much like trading card games like Magic: The Gathering, or like trading sports cards. There's also a pretty big community around Pokemon cards as well. All right, with that, I want to move on. I said this today that I would give you a breakdown of a song that I really enjoy and I think is an important piece of what I call having a thoughtful Thursday. But it's not really just about Thursday. I'm just using a clever, to me, clever, probably really not that clever, alliteration there to remind us that we should be thoughtful every day. So let's go into this song breakdown. So this song is from Riley Green, and I wish I could play the music, but obviously I'll get a copyright strike, and they may actually take my stream down, so I don't want anybody to lose access to it. But I'll try to read it, at least in rhythm. There was a man I used to pass on my way into town. He was covered in dirt like the world had beat him down. I'd often wondered how he ended up like that, so one day driving home, I pulled over to ask. I said, man, where'd it all go wrong? He said, son, do you really want to know? My daddy left for another woman and moved off to L.A. My mama fought hard against that cancer. She died when I was 8. I finished school. My country shipped me off to war. When I came home, my whole world didn't love me anymore. It's hard to see all that when you're driving by. So I just wrote down Jesus saves, because there ain't no way I can fit that on a sign. So the next part of this is kind of where I say it's important. First of all, in the story Riley Green perceived to be the protagonist, he asked, he had the nerve to ask someone, what's your story? What's going on? And I think you'll see that in Carrollton. You may be less. There may be less opportunities to do that, but there's definitely opportunities to ask somebody, even in a coffee shop, somebody sitting alone. Obviously, if they have the earbuds in, maybe they're just taking a call, but there may be opportunity to just sit down and talk to somebody. Walking over here at Tanner, there may be opportunity just to somebody's walking and they may walk up beside you and strike up a conversation. It's okay to talk to people and ask them their story. So then Riley goes on. I took him to a diner and I bought him a cup of coffee. He asked me if he could bum a couple dollars off me. He told me his story and I told mine. He said thanks because most folks around here would never take the time. So, this song to me really hits me in the feels. From the conversation we had yesterday with Will, it's very important to have these. I don't remember all of the things that we had on the show versus off the show because we had a few minutes before the show that we had a pretty, I would say, very deep conversation. But you never know who it's going to be or what word it's going to take for somebody to find their salvation and find their way to God. And so it could be as simple as a sign that says Jesus saves. It could be as simple as a conversation had with a presumably Vietnam veteran. It's kind of the illusion that they're making there. And I think, those folks got treated very poorly as they returned from war. And they still, in some cases, get treated poorly because it's perceived as if they were the ones doing the wrong if you disagreed with the war. The reality is the people that make the decisions on where we go to war are largely disconnected from the actual war fighter. I think that's why I respect so much those that still choose to serve, even when they disagree maybe politically with who's in charge at the time. Man, I didn't realize that was in y'all's way. Sorry, y'all. So, because you can end up in a situation where you're doing things that you don't necessarily agree to, but agree with specifically, not like you're doing anything war criminal or that sort of thing, but you signed up to serve what the needs of the country are, whether you agree with them wholeheartedly or not, and you have a job to do. So not doing anything immoral or unethical, but in that situation, you may not have agreed politically with the decision that we made, but those folks still had to do what they had to do. And in their case, they weren't even doing it voluntarily in a lot of places. They were drafted. So if you see a Vietnam veteran, thank them and love on them. If you see somebody today out there that just needs clearly a smile or a pick-me-up, it's okay to just stop and take a minute. And I promise you that God will bless that. And it'll bless you as much as it blesses them. But, that's not why you should do it. You should do it as unto God. So anyway, so that's the Riley Green song. I love Riley Green. Pretty much every one of his songs hits me in the feels. He's got one called A Man Behind the Times. That one hits me really, really enjoyed that one. I even like Bury Me in Dixie. I think that one's a great song. He's an Auburn guy, Alabama guy in general, the state, not the school, but if you're a War Eagle fan, you've got a kindred spirit there in Riley Green. So if you like country music, I'd suggest you check him out. Not a paid advertisement, just my opinion. All right, let's move on to some events of the day or some this day in history. Going back in the time machine. All right. Let's fade that out. I'm getting better maybe at the soundboard. I have no idea. The island of New Britain is discovered in 1700. In 1827, the first Mardi Gras is celebrated in New Orleans. They've been doing it since 1827. That's going on 200 years, and that's pretty crazy. In 1879, the artificial sweetener saccharin is discovered. In 1932, do you ever wonder how things are discovered? We'll talk about something crazy here in just a minute, but let me put this random thing in my drink and see if it tastes sweet. And it'd be interesting to drill down on how all these things are discovered for the first time, and not the not the cleansed version, just for us as the person that's consuming the information. Like, oh, I rewrote it 3 or 4 times as to what the actual origin story is. No. I want to know what the real origin story is. In 1932, the neutron is discovered by English physicist James Chadwick, and he was later awarded the Nobel Prize for his discovery. I wonder what that. Anyway, we should talk about that one day. What's the difference between rewarded and awarded? I don't know. Maybe it's easy for some people, not easy for me. In 1933, Germany's parliament building is set on fire, and this is the kind of the key start of the Nazi Party, and where they could essentially use this as an excuse to repress others and their political opponents. So the Nazis used the Reichstag fire to justify harsh repression of their political opponents, and is considered a pivotal moment in the establishment of Nazi Germany. So that was in 1933. And you'll see that, and this is something that I find interesting and probably will continue to Google and watch on YouTube, is what started these events? Like, what really happened to bring about World War I and World War II? Like Archduke Ferdinand, I believe, was assassinated and that kind of launched off World War I. And it was something as simple as like the assassination attempt failed. He came out of a coffee shop or something to that effect. He walks out on the street. The assassin sees him and kills him. So had he not stopped for coffee, we don't have World War I type of thing. Now, would it have happened still anyway? I have no idea, but it was just interesting. 1943, nonviolent protesters in Berlin prevent the deportation of 2,000 Jews. This is known as the Rosenstrasse protest, and it was carried out by the Aryan wives and relatives of detained Jewish men. And then 1951, 22nd Amendment. This limited the president to 2 terms. This was coming right on the heels of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. He obviously served 4 terms, which was the only president to do that. It became pretty obvious that between age and time in office that we needed some term limits. I think we're all kind of figuring that out about the House and the Senate. How we get that passed, I have no idea. 1974, People magazine was published for the first time. In 1991, the 100-hour ground war of Desert Storm ended as Allied troops entered Kuwait just 4 days after launching their offensive against Saddam Hussein's Iraqi forces. And then in 2010, on this day, a massive earthquake struck Chile. The tremor measured 8.8 on the Richter scale and left more than 500 dead and thousands injured. I sort of remember the kind of craziness that ensued after that, and just the tragedy that was. An 8.8's pretty big earthquake. I think it's even enough to shift the poles a little bit and shift the earth on its axis some. Now let's move on to birthdays. I don't know if y'all remember watching Mr. Deeds. Anybody in the comments? Mr. Deeds was a Adam Sandler movie. I love Adam Sandler. I think he's in his simplicity and stupidity of some of his shows is kind of peak comedy in a way that it's very approachable and easy for people to just enjoy without having to think real hard. And then I think he has some other movies that are, I won't call them a thinker, but are heartfelt and loving. And I think that makes him a great writer. I love that he, spends time with his friends by doing that and shows loyalty to his friends by bringing them on. And if you ever get a chance to listen to his song about Chris Farley, talk about thought-filled, if you were a Chris Farley fan or SNL fan, you might tear up a little bit. Just saying. So get the Kleenexes ready. It makes me tear up every time. If I want to get sad, I watch that video. But it also makes me happy that people are that loyal and that loving of their friends. Moving on to birthdays. In 1807, this is why I thought about Mr. Deeds, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. I feel like there was a character about Longfellow in there. In 1902, John Steinbeck. the author. 1932, Elizabeth Taylor. That's an interesting picture. I wonder if y'all can see that. Can y'all pick that up? Look at that picture of Elizabeth Taylor. Pretty striking photos. I always find that if I put stuff in black and white, it's definitely much more striking. In 1934, Ralph Nader. 1980, Chelsea Clinton. 1981, Josh Groban. And in 1994, Hugh Yifan, who is Yifan, the Chinese chess player. And in local news or local birthdays, was a great friend of the show and of myself and my wife was Katie Stanton, who passed tragically. Her family, so happy heavenly birthday to Katie. Her family has started a charity or a nonprofit that is, I'm going to share the link of. Unfortunately, had to miss the kind of kickoff of that nonprofit because I had some car trouble. But want to share this with you in the comments here. I don't know if y'all can click links from the comments. If you can't, I'll figure out a way to get them there. But this one is called Katie's Truth, and it's a nonprofit supporting those with eating disorder, it says supporting someone with an eating disorder can be challenging, but your care and understanding can make a world of difference. Every step counts on the path to recovery, and let's be the support they need. So it's a heavy focus on the main focus of the nonprofit is in education and helping people understand the signs and the challenges that come with it and how to support those that are going through an eating disorder. So if you can, go over, like, and follow. They didn't ask me to do that, but I loved Katie. Her spirit would fill the room. So when you had an opportunity to meet her, she was always smiling, always entertaining, making you laugh. She did the I think it's Bon Qui or whatever it was, but there was a skit that somebody did about doing nails and you want crystal gel, and she did it spot on, and it was so funny, and she just brought a liveliness to every room she came into. And in one case, we were at the Beyonce concert, and she helped us out without even asking. So my niece was there; she was young, and this person was trying to dance on her in what I would call a not so good way. We're in the suite, so we knew most of the people. And Katie, without even asking or thinking, went right over and just kind of scooted her way in between my niece and this person, and got her out of harm's way very quickly. It was like 2 seconds, but Katie was just like, "Nope, you're not gonna bother her," and that was her. I mean, just anytime somebody needed something, she was there for them. So, this charity or this nonprofit is going to be good. Her family is a very strong family and loving family, and wants to see her death make a difference. And so, please go and follow them. With that, we'll move on. And so I love AI, and you guys know that. We keep talking about it. I know you're probably tired of hearing about it. But I do think it's interesting to see how it's developing and, is it getting better, right? And so we're being asked at work to, pilot some things to try to see what's going on. I'm doing some stuff in my personal life. I obviously use ChatGPT, and I've used DeepSeek a little bit. I'll tell you a little story on that in a second. But from the ChatGPT, I asked it, I said, listen, can you give me a Thoughtful Thursday story? Just like it gave me a poem or a fairy tale yesterday. And it did. It came up with a pretty good one. So I'm going to read it to you real quick. It said, every Thursday at precisely 4:30 p.m., Mr. Whitmore would sit on the worn wooden bench by the duck pond. No matter the season, rain or shine, he was there. Some passerby assumed he was simply a creature of habit. Others whispered he was waiting for someone who never came. One Thursday, a young woman named Elise, who often walked by, finally gathered the courage to sit beside him. They sat in silence for a while before she asked, why this bench, and why every Thursday? And Mr. Whitmore smiled, gazing at the rippling water, and he said, "Many years ago, my wife and I would meet here every Thursday after work. It was our little ritual. Life got busy, but Thursdays were ours. Even after she passed, I kept coming, not out of sadness, out of gratitude." Elisa nodded, and filling the weight of his words, she said, "That's beautiful." And Mr. Whitmore chuckled. You know, the funny thing about rituals is they have a way of finding new meaning and sometimes new company. From that day on, Elise made it a point to sit with him on Thursdays. They talked about life, books, and the little things that often went unnoticed. And just like that, a new ritual was born. And the name of that story was The Thursday Bench. So again, just a story to kind of give us a moral of it's okay to sit down and talk to somebody and have a conversation. And they're not going to be offended by the fact that you ask, "Hey, what's up? What's your story? How you doing?" And it's how you ask it. And if you're open to it, you can have a conversation. All right. That's the Thoughtful Thursday story. Moving on to some national news, the mineral rights deal looks like it's going to be consummated, or however you want to say that, signed on Friday. We'll see. The Epstein list looks like some of it's going to be released, including the flight logs today. So if you're interested in that or want to know that, I think we all are wondering, why that hasn't happened already. I imagine that it's got something to do with who's on the list, but we'll see. So those things are in motion. There's a announcement again of some more tariffs that might affect the EU. The market is kind of going to the sidelines, so to speak. You saw Bitcoin hit some technical markers that it hasn't hit in a while. It's sitting in I think it was 84 range this morning. S&P 500's taken a little bit of a dip. There's, I think the market has recognized that we've been kind of living off hype in some ways, and that we've been in a position of perceived goodness when maybe people were lying to us. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. We'll see where it goes from here. But I think anything we can do to resolve the conflict in Ukraine that leads to peace without too much concession on either side, meaning us and Ukraine, not Ukraine and Russia. I think Russia's got a lot to give, and they should be the ones to give up something, being they're the ones that caused the war, and we're the ones that invaded. But we'll see. I mean, the loss of life is a lot. We don't want that to continue, and I think we're all praying that peace comes. In other national news, so data centers are booming. We've talked about it multiple times. The building of data centers continues to happen, and that's great for the tax base. But on a per square foot basis, it's one of the worst job creators, because you don't need that many people to maintain a data center once it's up and running. In fact, you don't really want a lot of people on site because of the sensitivity of the data and what's getting processed there. So you end up with maybe some security jobs, some maintenance jobs, and then some on-site administration, but you don't end up with a lot of jobs on a per square foot basis. So some people have concerns about that. And I mentioned to you earlier in the month about the push really from a lot of cities is to favor things like Buc-ee's over manufacturing because of just the amount of commerce it brings into the town. I wonder if there are cities and states that are also considering that with data centers. We've also mentioned that the state is starting to regulate how power and what kind of incentives that those companies can get from power companies and utility companies so that they're not overburdening the citizens that live there. And, to talk about that, just a smidge in California, I'm not a fan of the administration of California in a lot of ways. In some ways, I think it's great that they, for example, if PG&E, which is one of their power companies, has an issue and they were the cause of a wildfire, there was an opportunity for them to have to share in paying for the wildfire. You know, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, I'm not sure, but at least there's the opportunity. I think they give some consumer protection in California is what I'm saying. And so I think that they try to be pro-consumer in that way. And in their labeling laws, they try to be pro-consumer. Maybe they go over the top, but they try to be pro-consumer in their Proposition 65 to acknowledge what chemicals are in products. And I think they go too far sometimes, but they set a standard that allows, then other states to kind of see, all right, and experiment, like what's the right answer. But in recent weeks, there's been a conversation around the incentives they're going to give for solar panels and how they're going to significantly lower the rate of those that have solar panels on their house and they overproduce of how much they get paid for selling that power back to the grid. And I think that's really a mistake. And I wonder what's at the heart of that. I mean, maybe it's lowering it some, it makes sense, but you sold them on bringing solar panels onto their roof because they would be able to get that payback period down, and they spent and bought these expensive solar panels, investing in a renewable technology that they felt like was going to make the environment better and, in theory, lower the total load on the power companies so that it would be easier to maintain a power grid that didn't have brownouts and blackouts. So you asked the citizen to take that, and as responsible citizens, they took on that burden and went and made some investments expecting these incentives. And now to reverse course on that, I think is just a dangerous game. I don't know what the intention is behind it, but it does seem a little interesting. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm not a super fan of that kind of decision, and I think we should question those decisions and why they're being made, and maybe follow the money would be my suggestion. With that, we are going to transition to some local news. And I did ask a poll, a little informal poll, and y'all tell me, what is your favorite segment? Is it the stories and the poems? Is it the National Day? Is it the birthdays or the events? Or is it local or national news? Is there what makes you the happiest and what makes you want to tune in and share the podcast with other people? Okay, in local news, Huck's on Maple, which is a fresh dining spot, is coming to Carrollton in late May or early June. Found that out from the city menu. Looked over on the city menu as well. There's an exhibit of artist Channing Gray's paintings, books, and found objects titled Into Neverland, The Swirling Dreams of Southern Memories. It'll open, I think it's today, February 27th. Today's the 27th, right? Yeah, February 27th. So it opens today. And it will go through April 7th, and that's over at the Carrollton Center for the Arts. So check that out if you get the chance. And then in real local news, and I'm talking like just down the hallway, the Posh Sisters had their grand opening last weekend. I'm sorry I missed the announcement. I now follow them. The H2 show follows them. And Michaela would love for you to come visit her. I believe her hours are Tuesday through Saturday, and I believe it's 11 to 6 on the Tuesday through Friday, and then I think it's like 10 to 5 on Saturday. But I'll get you the specific hours, and I'll share her links as well after the show. So, stop in, say hi, and go do some shopping for your wife, sister, or yourself. And then I got some other just random news that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah, the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court appears poised to rule in favor of a straight white woman from Ohio in a reverse discrimination case. The court seems likely to lower the burden for majority group members to file such lawsuits, following arguments that an appeals court erred in its stricter requirements. I just thought that was funny or interesting. It's kind of a sign of changing times. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts? Put them in the comments. Be respectful, but don't feel bad about having an opinion. If you have an opinion, it's a safe space in our comments. We're not going to flame anybody or try to get anybody canceled. It's okay to have a conversation, have a discussion, be respectful. But it's interesting, that they're going to even take up that case and talk about it, whether they rule one way or the other. And I think it's important also when we look at court cases to look at the court case itself for its merits and not read in our want to or our perception, and understand that there's a lot of distance between, okay, that was clear discrimination regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, etc., and call those things on their face. We've got to judge things on their merits and not based on some groupthink that we want to have, to say, oh, the pendulum needs to swing way far this way or the pendulum needs to swing way far that way. Judge the situation that you're in on its merits. Don't be offended on behalf of somebody else. If it doesn't offend you, why are you taking offense? If you're in a conversation and somebody hurts your feelings, take them privately, talk to them, say, look, hey, didn't like that. Let's not talk like that. That's okay to say. It's okay to set that boundary. As we talked about yesterday, truth and boundaries are going to be exclusionary. It's okay. It's not going to be a problem. I'm talking to myself just as much as I am to anybody else, but it's okay. And it's okay not to be offended. Somebody says something, doesn't hurt your feelings, you don't have to be offended on somebody else's behalf. It's all right. You got enough problems to deal with on your own. You don't have to carry everybody else's burden. Love other people. Help them through hard times if you want to. Yes, but carrying their burdens, you are your brother's keeper. You are going to lean in and take the yoke with them at times, but that doesn't mean carrying their burden into a conversation they're not even a part of. You don't have to do that. You can check people, but you don't have to. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the verse of the day. I think we're there. My favorite part. And I'm not going to do a good job of doing what Will did and give you great context, but I will be ordering a Bible, or I will be finding a Bible that gives me the context of these conversations so that I can better provide that to you as we read through the verse of the day. As we always say, we love you here at the H2 Show. We want you to grow and want you to be better for your family, for your job, for your career. And we think you can find something in this, whether you're a believer or not a believer. We want you to be a believer, but understand that not everybody's going to think the way we think. And with that, let's read from Revelations 4:11 in the NIV. You are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. And in that, he's saying that essentially we get to God be the glory in everything. As Will was talking yesterday, it wasn't like he just set into motion. He breathed life into all of this and is here. He's in the room. He's a part of this. You serve a ever-present God, and so if you know He's in the room, you can ask Him for help, and the Spirit will intercede on your behalf, as Will was telling us yesterday. What a great conversation, by the way. Loved having a good conversation with Will. A wealth of knowledge, but you can tell his heart is for other people to find God, and he doesn't want you to get tripped up by the failings of the world. He wants you to find the truth in the Bible, in the Word, not in somebody else's words, but in the Word, breathed and given from God. All right, with that, I'm going to give you a riddle, because tomorrow, like I say, I won't be in here maybe in the traditional sense, may just do a little phone video, but I will answer the riddle tomorrow. I need to take a little break. I'm getting tired about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I got to figure out a way to power through that because the caffeine's not doing it. So with that, the riddle. I rise with the heat, yet fall with the air, a delicate treat beyond compare. With cocoa so rich and a texture so light, I'm best enjoyed fresh and warm, a warm, fluffy bite. What am I? Awesome. So the answer to the riddle yesterday was Pokemon Day, or Pokemon. And the answer to the, hey, can you find the error, if you look up in the right-hand side of that picture that I posted yesterday in our story, you'll see the clock, and the clock does not have the time for 5:30. It has some random time on there. And the reason why is because ChatGPT and Grok and all these other AI services are not perfect. They don't understand when I told them to set all the clocks in the picture to 5:30, that was even a clock, or how to set it to 5:30. So you can see how it can't take, context and direction all the time, and how there's an art to prompting a AI to do what you want it to do. So I suggest practicing and learning that, because just like Google searches are past generations AI. Hey, how do I Google? There is an art form to getting the answers you want out of Google. There will be the same to getting your answers out of AI when you need to use it, and you will. So I encourage you to try it, use it, experiment, enjoy it. There'll be a lot of stuff coming in the comments. Remember, the Lisa Harper, sponsored by Fearless, and that group there, March 6th at 7 p.m. And you can pick up your tickets. It is a paid event. It's at Midway. There's only about 100 tickets left, so get your spot. It's going to be about God's promises for women. It's specifically targeted at women. So go and enjoy that if you get a chance. And then come see Michaela here at the Posh Sisters. And as I said, I posted the Katie's Friends charity as well. But with that, we don't say goodbye. We say see you real soon. And we will see you real soon. I may post some pictures and some videos today. We love you. We want you to do great things. We know you can do great things because you know how to do hard things. And on this show and in this community, we make choices, not excuses, because that's how we change our life. You are in control, because 90% of life is how you respond to the other 10%. But
at the end of the day, the day got